Manish Kochhar, co-founder of Value Talks and your host for today's special talk. Value Talks, as you know, I can see some of the familiar names here, is an advisory platform for sincere, genuine, and good advice on healthcare, on finance, and education and career. Uh, it is founded by self, Captain Vipul Choudhary, and Major Jayesh. And we have on our panel experts from various fields, like Captain Choudhary is from real estate. We have CA Ashish Sharon, Mr. Jitin Choudhary from mutual fund industry. Then we have architects, we have crypto industry experts, we have derivative experts, we have legal experts, construction experts, educational experts from education field, just to give you sincere and genuine advice so that you don't take wrong decisions in your life and be on the right track. Today's talk, we have been getting a lot of requests from our members who they have their children who are in medical courses in India, and some of them even in USSR, erstwhile USSR, I mean Ukraine, sorry, and who have come back and they wanted to know what opportunities are there in US for medical graduates and how to go about it. We have been contemplating holding this talk for quite some time, but we wanted to get the right expert. And today for this talk, we have with us Commander TJ Baring. TJ, welcome. Are you there? Are you on parade?
Yes. Hi, how are you, Manish?
We can barely hear you, TJ.
Excellent.
Okay, gentlemen, before we start, let me introduce Commander TJ Baring. He's ex-Indian Navy. He's from 77th NDA course, took early retirement from the Navy, and then he established his business in US. He's a serial entrepreneur. His business interests, they include real estate in US as well as in India, healthcare industry. He has his own healthcare firm in US, and education domain. He's also into projects in, if I'm not wrong, correct me, TJ, is it solar?
Yeah.
Solar energy projects. So, and he has been in US for more than a decade now, and he has, to his credit, many students who have joined, who have matched in residency in US. So, welcome TJ, welcome to the show. How is it going in US? Are you in US or you are in Canada right now?
No, I'm back in US, and yes, I've been here actually more than 2 decades now. Moved
Okay.
here in '99 and been around. But thank you for calling me for this talk show, and very excited to share my knowledge and ideas with everyone. And looking forward to questions from everyone.
Right, sure. TJ, we know that you are hard pressed for time, and we will straight get on to the job in hand. And first of all, TJ, how is US uh, for international medical graduates, specifically Indian medical graduates?
Right. Uh, Well, let me start by saying that outside, if I just look at the immigrant community that are doctors, Indian doctors constitute the highest number in United States. There are over 100,000 Indian doctors in the US. And
Okay,
that's why they have been well established, I would say, for last almost 30, 35 years.
okay,
So to answer your question, Indian doctors, yes, definitely they are well accepted. And international medical graduates, again, they are widely accepted. And we'll cover during the talk, more details about that.
And how is the? I mean, they are accepted, but is there a demand for doctors in US? Is there? Uh, I mean, for everyone who's wanting to go to US, but I have heard there's so much of it's so difficult to get the residency.
Right.
So is it because the demand is not there, or is it?
Well, first of all, there is a shortage. The American Medical Council has given a report that by 2033, which is about 10 years from today, they're expecting over 100,000 doctors shortage. That means even with an existing pace that they have based on the number of residencies that are ongoing, which are about 38,000 at this point in time. But even at that rate, they expect about 100,000 doctors to be short in terms of required numbers.
Okay.
So demand, yes, the demand exists. The key is to see if more residency positions can be opened up and they can catch up. And I'm pretty sure that should happen.
So is there a likelihood of more residency positions opening up?
Yeah, they're opening up all the time. In fact, they're getting approved all the time, mostly in primary care. But we do see new positions opened up every year. The rate at this point is about 200 plus positions every year.
Okay. 200 uh,
200
seats.
new positions. Correct.
Okay.
So the residencies training in US is controlled by what is called CMS. CMS is a Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and the program is called ACGME. So GME is the Graduate Medical Education, and the training, which is ACGME accredited, is controlled by CMS. So it's actually a federal government funded. So that's what I meant when I said that there are 200 new positions being added every year.
Okay, that's quite heartening to know. At least for the medical fraternity, those people who are wanting to pursue their higher studies or make a career in US. But I mean, culturally and professionally, uh, I know that your wife is also a doctor, and so even your son. So culturally and professionally, how do you I mean rate culturally for I mean since people who uh, go from migrate not migrate but go from India to US for them I'm asking and also professionally what is the difference?
So, well, culturally, I can tell you that quite often I'm asked a question, "Are you a doctor?" So that means they see an Indian face and they relate that okay, more than likely, and if you can speak uh, even a little bit of medical language, they think that you are a doctor. So that's the cultural acceptance part of it. I think over a period of last 35 years, a lot has changed. And culturally, there is a wide acceptance of Indian doctors, mainly because of the hard work that they put in, that the existing doctors have put in, and really made name for themselves. Professionally, again, I think professionally essentially relates to an individual competence. And if you are hardworking, you can be professionally successful anywhere. And we've seen that typically Indian doctors, when they come here, initially they have little startup hiccups, primarily because how the medicine is practiced in India versus US. There's a little bit of a transition, but once they get in the role, thereafter it's pretty cruise control. So it is satisfying professionally as well.
And what about the patient community? Do they accept IMGs or is there a bias?
Well, again, it is to individual patients, they always will be biased. It's a human nature per se to have some level of bias, but overall, I think a patient really is looking to get treated well. By that, what I mean, not only the treatment part, but even the acceptance part. So as long as you as a doctor know how to treat patient, you would find that you are accepted well.
Okay. So, TJ, uh, can you just give a brief this thing? How does one go about, you know, mm, getting residency? I mean, what are the steps for getting to US and doing residency there?
Right. So obviously you have to be MBBS or MD from not only from India but any part of the world. And your college has to be listed there is a directory, International Medical College Directory. The college has to be listed on that for ECFMG to kind of certify that your college is accepted. Now, ECFMG is Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates. This acts as a one nodal dean slash college for all the colleges of the world.
Okay.
So when the US started allowing international medical graduates, instead of uh, different programs reaching out and verifying whether medical students are genuine or not, they found that it was better to create one entity. Again, it's a non-profit entity, and what they do is they're the gatekeepers. So you send all your documentation to them. They accept your kind of prerequisites to sit for USMLE exams, and they are the one doing all the verification. Subsequently, they also become your sponsor for your J1 visa if you end up getting accepted and you get on J1.
Okay. So, USMLE, you can appear for USMLE only after MBBS, or you can appear before completing it also. What is the
You can
process?
you can appear even before competing for step one. The requirement is step one is the basic sciences. So you have to have finished year two. So first and second year of medicine is the one where you cover the basic sciences. So once you complete that, that's when you are eligible to take step one anytime. In fact, I always suggest, and I know a lot of people have started following this, I always suggest that you should finish your step one in your third year itself for two reasons. One, your knowledge of basic sciences still is fresh. You just finished first and second year. And also, third year relatively is a little easier in terms of the total workload. So it's easier to get through that exam, get that out of the way, so that you save on that preparation time moving forward.
So, I mean, you can say, as per you, third year is the ideal time to appear for step one.
It is ideal. That is correct.
Okay, so you have step one, step two, and then you have step three, which you can take even in US, right?
Right. So there is a step one, which is basic sciences. Step two, which is clinical knowledge, CK. And earlier used to be a separate, it was step two had a CK and a CS component. CS was clinical skills, which now has been done away with and has been replaced by what is called OET, Occupational English Test.
Okay.
So you take an OET instead of a CS, and there is a approval pathway. Essentially, you get up ending approved, and you get what is called ECFMG certification. So ECFMG certifies that you have passed your step one and step two CK as well as OET. It's when you complete those three elements, along with the fact that they have already verified your college, that's when they issue a certificate called ECFMG certification, which is what is required before you officially uh, present your rank order, and before the programs can also rank order you in terms of before the match.
No,
So
sorry, our audience may not understand what is a rank order. So,
I'll follow through those steps. But rank order essentially is the uh, you select programs based on number of programs that you apply into and you interview into. So let's say I applied into 5 programs, starting from Harvard to Stanford to one in Long Beach and another one probably in New York. Now I have an option of ranking these programs based on how my interview went and how I like them. So I'll rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same way, program also who's interviewing like 200 candidates for each program, they will also rank about 40 or 50 candidates. And then your either your rank has to match or the program uh, has to match, and that's what really match is all about. So you match your program, and programs match their candidates based on their rank order.
so what you're saying is that you have to complete step two and OET before this rank, before you can even apply for this thing.
No, you can apply for it earlier. You can apply even with just step one scores.
Okay.
And I tell people to do this all the time. Unfortunately, a lot of people have this misconception that you have to finish step one, step two, and OET before you can even apply. That is not the case. You can apply for a match as long as you finished uh, your step one score. You have your step one score, you can go ahead and apply for a match.
Okay. Okay.
In fact,
And
people even apply in the final year of their medical college here in US. They
oh,
haven't even finished their graduation.
right.
But you have to graduate before you start the residency. Typical academic year in US is July 1st to June 30th. So most of the programs, they start July 1st every year. So which means you have to be able to qualify for and get your ECFMG certificate before your rank order, which means that before you really start your program and you are matched, they know that you are already matched and you have a certification.
And even the OET, you can appear before, I mean, along with your, when you appear for your step one, you can appear for OET also, right?
You can appear OET anytime. In fact,
Anytime.
OET
Yeah.
you can appear even in your first year or second year.
So is there a validity of that score which you get?
Typically, they most of the scores are valid for 2 years, but you can always take an extension. They do allow an extension in case you say that you are still going through your steps. Then you can take an extension. But most of the validities are typical validities are 2 years.
Okay, TJ, before I ask you, specific questions on USMLE and its preparation, because you have seen so many doctors going through this, and you have been personally involved in their residency match. Uh, is there any pathway without USMLE?
Is there any?
Any way of doing residency without USMLE?
No. Well, there are residency. You can have a non-accredited ACGME, but the fact is the requirement is that you have to have a USMLE. USMLE is, as you know, it's a United States medical license exam.
Right.
So if you are starting a residency in US, if you don't have a USMLE, you will not get a license. The state will not issue you a license, the state board. And if you don't have a license, then you obviously can't do the training because you're interacting with the patients. So you have to have a resident license during your training. So to answer your question, you don't have USMLE, step one and step two, you're not going to get license.
Right. Now, What are the typical USMLE scores which are considered safe?
Well, there are really, that's a very hard question to answer. Reason is because different programs have set their own different standards. And what is typical USMLE scores? They vary all the time. The step one now anyway has done away with the score requirements. It's just pass or fail. Used to be score earlier.
Is
And
it in black and white now?
yes, so as of January this year, step one is only pass and fail. They don't report scores.
Okay, right,
So it's just pass and fail. So the only scores you're talking about is step two, which
right,
again varies, but you know, again, it's a guesstimate. It's not a true estimate, but a guesstimate is that a 235 score will see you through uh, most of the internal medicine program. So again, like I said, different programs have different requirements. I know a lot of programs that their only requirement is that you should have passed, but not had an attempt. But at the same time, I've also seen few residents matching even with attempts because once they went to the program and let the clinical experience, they had reasons why they got an attempt. So it could be they got sick during the exam or had some, event in the family, uh, unfortunate event. So sometimes that also contributes to bad score. I think the program directors are looking at the overall aspect rather than focusing on one score alone.
right. So, so how do you for USMLE does one take some training, Kaplan, etc.? So
Well,
can you just in brief guide as to how to prepare? How long one prepare? What is the kind of, since your own son has gone through it and your wife is also a doctor, and you have assisted so many people going through this path. So
typically preparation varies based on individuals. Somebody would need probably only 3 months, versus another person could need as much as a year. But it's safe to assume that if you set aside about 4 to 6 months of preparation for step one, you could definitely, complete your step one exam. Uh, at, and then since a lot of step two is also repetition of step one, I always suggest that people should take their step two immediately within 2 to 3 months of their step one, which gives you a total time of anywhere between 6 months to a year for completing all the steps. And that's where I again say that if you do this during your third year of your med score, your medical college, I think that that's the best time because that's how you save on 6 months.
okay, and uh, what about the requirement of doing rotations, clinical rotations in US? And
Well,
especially when visa is not there these days, hardly. I mean, US visa, it's so difficult to get tourist visa. I don't know whether they've opened it also or not.
uh, again, U.S. clinical experience is a requirement of a lot of programs, mainly because they want to see that you do have interacted with patients in U.S. and also you've understood some amount of U.S. healthcare system because it's a lot different than the Indian or international healthcare system. So that's where the US clinical experience comes into the play. Most of the programs would like to see at least 4 to 8 weeks of clinical experience. Some of them even ask as much as up to 3 months of US clinical experience. Again, it varies from program to program, but it's good idea to get US clinical experience. And I think because it's so important to have it. And then if you do come on a visa, Uh, then one of the options is to apply for uh, a course, a graduate course, and a graduation essentially is a post graduation in India, but in the US they're called graduate. So apply for a master's course either in a public health or health administration, and then you can definitely pick up your US clinical experience during that time that you're here as a student. And there are other benefits also when you do a course in US. Uh, the other one being that you can also apply for programs under what is called OET, which is, I'm sorry, under OPT, which is optional practical training. It's essentially a work permit given by immigration for any degree level that you do in US, and it can vary anywhere from 1 year
So
to 3.
how does it help?
How does it help? Because a lot of programs, I would say statistically, almost about 50% of the programs would not sponsor a visa J1 or H1. So either you are, US green card holder or US citizen, or if you have a work permit, which is possible with this OPT, then yes, you can apply them under those category, which means now instead of applying for only 50% of the program and reducing your chances further down, you are able to apply into more programs. So, I had done some math based on statistics earlier, and there was an example where your percentage chance improved by almost 68 to 70% once you do it under an uh, OPT versus applying for H1 or J1.
So what you are suggesting is that uh, first of all, it is not compulsory. I mean, it is not. Yeah, it's not a requirement that you have to do a graduate program. So you can apply straight away for a program. However, it helps in visa requirements.
Right.
Not every hospital or not every program sponsors visa for international medical graduates. So just to overcome that issue, it helps in taking up some other course.
Correct.
Right. So, but then one can always choose only those programs which are international medical graduate friendly and which historically have been providing visas.
Oh, yeah, that's an option. Definitely, you could look at the programs that have been providing visas. But the fact is, then your choice goes down by 50%. Why would you like to restrict yourself into number of programs that you apply for?
Okay. Okay. So when you apply for number of programs, you have to pay some kind of fee for all these for every program you are applying for.
Correct. So there is a fee for every program that you apply into, and that's why you have to select the programs that you want to apply into. I typically advise people to apply only about 20 to 25, at the most 30 programs, because beyond that, you are really not getting any value addition. Uh, I know a lot of people who end up applying even into 200 programs and spend like eight to $10,000 doing that, but it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping some will stick. Uh, I I would rather say that do your research into the program, see look at the program that historically accept IMGs and are IMG friendlies, and then also see why you like a program. Why would you want to join a program? And if that matches, that's when you should apply into program.
Okay. So how is it beneficial? I mean, if it is so difficult to get the residency there, uh, I mean, you end up spending so much of money even there now for getting a program. This thing.
And that's why you don't apply into many programs. I typically tell people to restrict number of applications into the program. Also, the part of US clinical experience, what you should try and do is look at your target program that you want to join and hopefully get experience there, because now program director, instead of interacting with you for barely uh, 15 to 20 minutes, they get to know you over 4 weeks to 8 weeks. Now, typically, that's an advantage that a US medical graduate has over an international medical graduate, because they end up spending much more time in the rotations here. So that's why I always say that you should try and do your rotations in the program that you're intending or to apply and hopefully join.
So, TJ, not everyone has got that kind of money to, send. And also, then there is, you're talking about programs, applying for number of programs. Uh, and then there is requirement of a letter of recommendation also. So, I mean, let's say somebody does apply, whether he or she joins some graduate program, a program in US, and takes the path of F1 visa, or whether even if they don't do this way, they just apply straight simply from here only. How can one get LOR while being here? What should a medical student or a doctor who's presently here and is planning to do his residency in US as part of preparation, what should they do so that their CV becomes good for uh, residency, irrespective whether going on F1 visa or not?
I think I always tell everybody that don't focus on just fluffing up your resume. Focus on getting some real experience and also getting real value of what you're doing. So typical research options are not only doing research, but also you could pick up. Let's say I'm just giving you again an example. Let's say I like a program in uh, a hospital in White Memorial in Los Angeles, and I know that the program director there is uh, definitely IMG friendly, and I would like to apply into that program. What I could then do is go and look at the different research publications or researches that that program has been involved in, look at their articles that have been published, and I can also do what is called a review article. So basically, it's a peer review article, and part of that, I can also interact with them. Uh, all this is you're not even here. You are interacting over the email or phone or Zoom or to talk about the research. So the whole idea is about creating value to the program. Program has to know that you will be a valuable addition to them, and that's why they would like to invite you for an interview.
And when you start getting paid,
when when
I mean,
you
when you suppose you have matched, and then
Yeah, so as a resident you get paid. I mean, typically salaries range as a resident from $54,000 a year to up to $63,000 a year, depending upon where you're located. It's cost of living. It's tied to different places have different cost of living. So a San Diego reimbursement would be higher than, let's say, a small city like Augusta in Georgia.
okay. And is $60,000 or $50,000 per annum is good enough for US? I'm asking.
Well, it depends. If I want to have a big house and drive Ferrari, it's not good at all. But if I'm happy, just with a apartment or a house, a small house, and know how to stay within my means, then it is enough.
No, I mean this is a very You have ducked my question. It's not a right answer. Is it a decent salary for after doing so much of hard work? Is it a decent salary to live comfortably? I'm not saying luxuriously.
Well, the fact is that you are earning more than about 80% of population of US. So that should answer your question.
Okay, so 80%. You mean to say 80% of the people in US are earning less than $54,000 per annum?
Yeah, the typical individual salaries don't are not so much. It's the household salary which adds up and goes up.
Okay, so
So my point is that yes, you are earning decent amount, and again, this is during your training. Subsequently, once you finish your training and you start as a full-fledged doctor, now you're talking about different numbers altogether. Uh, Again, depending upon place and specialization, it can be anywhere around 240,000 onwards up to even 450,000 dollars a year. Now
I'm
that
sorry, what was the lower figure?
uh, again, it's all available on salary.com. So it varies from specialization and place, but about 220,000 is a decent number to look at an average.
So, so, but what about the visa requirement thereafter? Once you have graduated from there, not everyone must be getting a chance to work there.
Yeah, so either you apply for H1, which is typically a lot of doctors end up doing, is apply for H1. Or alternatively, even if you end up going back to your country, I'm sure you'll end up, earning much more than the average doctors there as well. But the option to work really is primarily on H1 visa for a
But
doctor.
then at one point of time, you said that there is shortage of doctors, and it's going to be the shortage is going to be 100,000 doctors in by 2030, and then there is, I mean, there is an option of coming. I mean, people want to stay there, and then they have to come back. That is also you are hinting at.
Well, again, different individuals have different requirements, right? It's hard for me to comment on what somebody else is going to do. I can tell you this for sure that most of them end up staying here and practicing
So
here.
that is
But
what my question was. That
I'm also aware that a lot of doctors have gone back to India and have really made names for themselves. I mean, I personally know a few of them. In fact, the most famous one is Dr. Trehan, who's running Medanta. He
right.
was a practicing doctor here in New York and decided to go back and set up a hospital over there. I know another classmate of mine, Dr. Ajay Naik, who's owning today Care Medical Institute uh, in Ahmedabad. It's a foremost name in cardiology. So my take is that it really is individual preferences, but unfortunately, I'm not the immigration expert, so
No, no,
that's
no, no.
why.
What my question was that what are the chances of a person of a doctor who has done residency from there and then wanting to stay back there, and what are his chances?
Well, if there is a shortage of doctor, I'm pretty sure he should be, and if he's a good doctor, I'm pretty sure he should be able to find sponsor that would sponsor him for H1, so and subsequently for green card. So it's all about creating your value, and if your value is recognized by somebody else, and if everything matches, then by all means you should be able to get a sponsor. But my point is, it's hard to predict today what is going to happen 3 years from today or 5 years from today, depending upon specialization. I think what really is important is that when you are coming for medical education to US, you should understand that you are getting trained at one of the topmost places in healthcare in the world. And I think that is what is the real takeaway of the education. What you decide on the immigration side, or what you want to do subsequently, really will differ from different people. And like I said, I am definitely not an immigration expert, and that's why I'm not commenting on what they can do. But I can tell you what typically happens is, yes, people do get H1 sponsors.
Okay. So, TJ, I will not, ask any question. Let me open the question or answer forum. If somebody has any question, ladies and gentlemen, you can ask TJ any kind of question which is there for. Okay, I will. Okay, Mr. Partho.
How are you? I have a question actually. While going through the residency programs, there are some ACGME accredited and there are few programs which are non-accredited. So suppose if somebody is being getting registered with this non-accredited program, so what will be the future of that particular perspective candidate? Thank you.
Well, most of the hospitals, when they look at a hire, they would want to look at somebody coming through a accredited ACGMA program. So that's where there is a very strong suggestion to look at a ACGME accredited versus a non-accredited. Non-accredited program also you could apply into that, and then there, yes, people do end up doing residencies with that as well. But the fact is that ACGME gives you a much more value in terms of it's known that the program is more monitored and structured, and you have to go through certain basic kind of training, which requires different rotations at different departments. And I think that's why it's very important to look at ACGME accredited versus non-ACGME.
Thank you so much. Now, I have the follow-up question. Suppose somebody get registered with SCGME accredited program, and within the span of the residency, maybe in 1, 2, or 3 years, somehow the program lost the accreditation. So, what happens to the people? And what about the program are not accredited right now, but within a year or 2 or 3 get accredited? So, what will be the outcome of those candidates in that case? Thank you.
Well, again, it's a hypothetical, and that's why what I'm giving you again is a guesstimate. But going with historicals, what happens is if you're accredited and you lose your accreditation, one of the fundamental requirement is to send your existing residents who haven't finished. So let's say a program loses accreditation today when they have all first, second, third year residents. So those residents will get absorbed in other programs so that they can finish their, they can complete their accreditation, program training, but that does not increases the residency slot for the program that they go into. So it's only a temporary fix, but not a permanent solution. All right. Next question, please.
Thank you so much. Mhm.
Yeah.
And what about vice versa? The program is not accredited at the time of registration, get accreditation later on. Yeah, thank you. If I hope I'm not asking lots of questions.
No, fine.
Well, if the program is not accredited today, but can it be accredited today? Yes, that happens also. So programs do get accredited, and people end up continuing with that program. I've seen that also happen.
Thank you
So
so much.
that will be a good thing only if it is getting accredited. So
Yes,
that is not an issue.
correct.
Will
But
will it be beneficial to the
guarantee when
people
you join
actually?
the
Yeah.
program. So since there's no guarantee when you join the program that the program will get accredited, it's better to look at a accredited program.
Yeah,
Thank
Mr.
you, sir.
Shivin.
Good evening. Is there any age limit for USMLE, appearing in USMLE and doing that whole process?
Well, that's one good thing about USMLE and any education in US is one, there is no age limit. Two, there is no past experience component. I've had, in fact, one of my very good friend who's a cardiologist here and very well known heart failure specialist. She used to be a software engineer about 15 years ago and did her PhD in AI, artificial intelligence. PhD used to teach software and IT, and then decided to pursue medical. Ended up joining a med school and residency. So, Mr. Das, to answer your question, I've had even a doctor, a cardiologist from Delhi at 58 years old. He moved to US because his son had sponsored him, and obviously he decided to come here, and he ended up joining an internal medicine residency. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely, TJ. That was a wonderful answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Das. Anybody else having any question, please? Okay.
Hello, sir. I'm calling from Delhi, and I want to know that what are the chances of non-US IMGs matching into surgery?
Well, let me put it this way. If you go to look at the statistics for the match, every year NRMP, they publish statistics for the match. It's available on website. If you go to NRMP website, you can actually look at the statistics for this year or any year, and they even break it down to percentage wise. So I think you can find a correct answer there versus, again, a guesstimate. And one thing I hate to do is, do a guesswork when the real data exists. It's just that I'm not a specialist on an RMP or the match rate, so that's why I don't think I want to take a guess. But I can definitely tell you that yes, there are international medical graduates who match in surgery. So
Okay, thank
I
you.
can't
Yeah,
say that nobody will ever match. I can, because I'm personally aware of people that have matched, and I've actually helped some of them match. So
got it. Thank you.
that answers your question.
Yes, you definitely did. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else having question? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Since there are
In
no
fact,
more questions,
in
yeah.
fact, just adding on to that surgery aspect of it, Manish, as you're aware, we started track in MHA at the University of Laverne.
Mhm.
There is a special master's track which was started, and the focus of this track is to make sure people end up joining residency. So it's a specialist track. Uh, Mostly physicians end up joining this cohort, and these are people who are really pursuing the residencies in US. So we ran a pilot program last year, and we got 100% match. So this year we increased the capacity, and we are looking at about 20 people that should be starting this year. My guess is about 15 of them have already joined, and some of them are also pursuing surgery residency. So part of that, they also get what is called the US clinical experience based on the internship, which is one of the courses of this MHA.
Okay, I forgot to actually mention that you are also, I think, visiting faculty for the University of Laverne.
Right. In
Am I
fact,
right?
correct. In fact, the course which I take uh, as part of this MHA, which is Masters of Health Administration, with a concentration in public health, I take a personal and professional development course as part of that, which covers mainly the process of residency applications and interview techniques and various other aspects. So one of the courses, so the requirement is about 12 courses. Because of MBBS degree, we were able to get a credit for one course, 3 units. So that credit is already given to any applicant who's finished MBBS degree. And thereafter, another course is essentially an internship, which is done at a place which also has an ongoing residency program. So you get to spend about 4 to 8 weeks.
So what you are actually telling us is that as part of Lavan, which you are a visiting faculty to, and Lavan University has a pilot kind of a program for helping residency match. That is what you are saying?
Correct. So the pilot was done last year. This year they had they expanded that based on the success of pilot. And because the number of positions are restricted in terms of where they can go and do the internship, that's why there is a capacity that they can go beyond. But that MHA course is what people end up joining, and I'm expecting again a great success even for this year.
All those who would like to know more about this program can join our Telegram channel or WhatsApp and give your queries, and we would definitely pass it on to Mr. Baring and not Mr. Baring. I'm so sorry, TJ. You're not Mr. You're commander. So and we will get you the answers. And as he's saying that the pilot program has already been, you said last year they have already done the pilot program. So what did anybody match?
Yes. So in the pilot, we had 3 students that joined. One student decided to defer her exams, and defer her admission by a year. So she ended up joining this year. But other 2 students, they ended up matching. One in internal medicine and another one in emergency medicine.
Emergency medicine.
Correct. So again, to answer, I think Shreya was asking this question. Now, similarly, a lot of people tell me that, oh, you can match in emergency medicine if you are international medical graduates. Again, not true. I think what you really need to do is decide what specialty you really want, and thereafter also you actually should be focused on that, and then just get all the steps out of the way to have a successful match. I think based on, again, many years of helping students out, I can confidently say that if you're focused and you're determined, then it's not very difficult to get matched. You can definitely get matched as long as you're determined that you want to join.
Okay, there's one more question. Let's see. Partho.
Yeah, I'm extremely sorry actually, since I joined a little later, so I didn't knew that I had to keep my video off. Yeah, I'm sorry. And my question is, if somebody is being trained in US in residency, and if the person is not willing to come back to the hometown, home country, and if not getting absorbed in US. So in that case, whether the person has some options to get settled some other country like Canada, UK, maybe Australia, Gulf, something like that, by the training experience. Yeah.
Well, again, I would refrain from answering the immigration question because I'm not the expert. But what I can tell you for sure is if you have a training from US, uh, you would be pretty much welcome in every part of the world, which also means that most of them, or pretty much all of them, barring few countries that don't want to even talk to US, but pretty much everyone will reciprocate, and you should be able to get a license in that country as well to practice. So I'm very confident that a US training prepares you to that level. So which means yes, you can pretty much look at utilizing this knowledge anywhere. On the immigration side, again, since I'm not the expert there, so I would
Right,
refrain
PJ,
from.
we'll move to the next question. Mr. Anu, or maybe it may be Dr. Anu.
It'll be a good idea if you, when you're asking question, just tell me very briefly about yourself. What you do and where are you from.
Yes, Shreya.
So I'm sorry, I only introduced where I'm from. I'm a I'm a non-US IMG and I graduated last year. So because I'm a graduate and I want to match into general surgery, I have my step one cleared and I'm currently preparing for my step two and I'm trying to apply this year if I can. So my question is because I have a slightly average step one score. So I mean, how does it affect my chances of matching into general surgery? And also to your, I mean, the second question is you were mentioning about your pilot program. So I mean, if you could tell us more about it, or if you could send a link as to how to apply and go about that.
Uh, well, you can definitely contact Value Talk, uh, just the same way. And Manish, maybe you could also have someone
Yeah.
contact Shreya to give her more details. But just a brief overview is very simple. It's you apply into a graduate program, right? You start your application now. You typically about week to 2 weeks time. You come here as a F1 student, and then you already got a credit for one course. You are able to utilize that credit, so your fees go down by that much because you're not doing the course, and the time also is saved. Uh, you end up joining also an internship where you end up going to a targeted residency program that you would like to join. So let's say in your case it is one of the surgery, then we would end up sending you to a surgery, or we would end up sending you to a hospital that also has a surgery program on site. So the another component that happens is you also get few courses are totally inclined towards your uh, residency application, your ARAs, your rank orders, your interview techniques, your resume build-up, all those components are addressed. And that course is taken by me, and I'm assisted by actually an existing director of a GME program who has multiple programs going on. So that is how you kind of get that added advantage. And then at the same time, you are also able to utilize the presentation, since the concentration is public health. So you end up using the presentations and also write a paper. You are able to also mention that in your ERA under your research component, because in research, the what they're asking is your both published and your oral presentations. So that's why you end up writing about that as well. And lastly, but very important, is you also end up picking up the course coincides to finish and get your OPT, which is work permit started as of July 1st next year, which means now instead of applying for only programs that accept J1 H1, you are able to apply almost into every program out there. So that also increases your chances of match phenomenally. So I
Right.
hope that answers your question, Shreya.
Shreya, if you have any further this thing, you can contact Value Talks,
Okay, sure.
and we will get back to you. We'll just address other this thing also now. Yeah. By the way, your question is answered.
Absolutely, sir. Yes. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Shreya. Sorry for not addressing you as doctor.
No, sir. It's perfectly okay. Thank you.
Okay. And Anoop.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. So I am a orthopedic surgeon, and in my middle ages, I'm almost 50 now, and my wife is a gynecologist. So, is there any pathway apart from the USMLE that we can relocate or work there? Maybe in the mainland US or in the Caribbean, anywhere? Is there a way without the MLE? Because we cannot prepare for the MLE at this age now.
Well, Anu, as I was mentioning, I personally helped someone who's 58 and is a cardiologist out of Delhi who joined internal medicine here. Obviously, he intends to do a cardiology fellowship here and then subsequently practice here. But is there any way? What problem is essentially, yes, you have the knowledge, but how do you get a license unless you have a residency in US? That's a question that really, I think that self answers your question that to get a license, you pretty much have to have a residency. There may be one or two pathways available that I'm not aware of, but you could do a research if somebody will accept you as a fellow, and then if accreditation agency can give you a fellowship.
TJ, I think for radiologists, this pathway is available.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are a few specialties, but those pathways are through the specialty accreditations. So, which means, please understand, it's really the main requirement is to get a license, right? Because only
Okay.
then you can
Mhm.
practice. Only then you are allowed to do clinical work.
So,
there are two
what I
parallel
can gather,
here. One is
I have
license.
to apply for the MLE.
I'm sorry.
From what I gather from your statement is I have to go through the MLE, USMLE.
It's a short way. It's a easier way. Though, like I said, there are pathways through fellowship, but unfortunately, I'm not aware of pretty much details of those pathways. But in terms of your wife, again, I know a gynecologist who is an IVF specialist, whose children settled down here. So now she's decided to move here. So she's again pursuing the MLD path.
Okay. And the same rule applies for the Caribbean as well.
I'm again not aware of what Caribbean would permit. I'm not 100% aware of that. But again, a lot of countries, they have their own license requirements that you need to fulfill so that you can apply into that country.
So, for the fellowship also, I have to clear the MLE, or if I have some contacts, or if somebody invites me through.
Yeah, I'm aware of not every fellowship requires MLE, but a ACGMA fellowship will require MLE.
Okay.
So you could have a university offering a fellowship that is non-ACGMA that may not require a USMLE.
Thank you, sir.
Right. So, thank you, TJ. There, I don't think. Okay, there is Preeti Malik.
Yeah, hi, good evening. I'm calling from Delhi. And basically, I want to know about my daughter. She's just 17 years old. And she's going to the US for her pre-med, biological sciences, basically. So, and later on, she wants to do her, she wants to get into medical. So, I just want to know, should she go for any particular subjects other than physics, bio, and chemistry, which could help her later, with the credits and all before her MCAT and all, like health, public health or something like that, or pharmacy or something?
Again, I'm not aware of, what subject she already has, but if she's already doing a pre-med here, essentially that means she's doing an undergraduation here. It's going to be 4 years. So she'll have to do a 4 years undergrad, followed by another 4 years of med school, which makes it 8 years. My point is there is an option for her to directly join, let's say, an MBBS course, even out of India, or join a college in Caribbean, which now would be much faster because all they need is a high school. So if it was my son, and which she actually ended up doing, was my own son from US went to India, finished his med school in CMC, his MBBS in Christian Medical College, and then came back and joined residency here. So I mean, if you ask me, the faster and the cheaper way really is doing it outside. But again, it's individual choice. So I think she can definitely, if she's already picked up pre-med, biology, etc., and then on electives, yes, public health would help her application into medical schools.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Manish, I'll have to
Yeah,
ask.
sure. So we'll wind up. We'll wind up now. Any more questions? People can give it on the channel, Value Talks channel, and the link is already given in the chat box. Thank you, TJ. Thank you so much for taking out time. It's been wonderful, and I believe that you are doing some real great work for nursing fraternity also, right?
Yeah, but I guess we'll cover another time.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Definitely.
But TJ, does doing it from Caribbean, this thing, does it help in any way? Is there an advantage of doing it from Caribbean and then going to US, vis-a-vis doing it from India and then going to US?
Well, one of the advantage per se is that they end up doing their rotations in US. So that advantage definitely exists. But the disadvantage is that you are not licensed to practice in India. So let's say if somebody still wants to keep, I'm talking about somebody from India, right? They would want to keep their ties to India too. So they should have an option of practicing at both sides. In that case, probably doing it out of India is more beneficial. So again, it depends upon individual, their own situation. But overall, Caribbean students, most of them will end up doing their rotations, their clinical years in US.
And the teaching standard is comparable to what we get in India, like the exposure to patients and everything?
Yeah, it is pretty much comparable. As you are aware, most of the medical college is also self-learning, but yes, the standards are comparable. Again, tough question to answer, but I think I have seen I have seen better results out of people that have gone to India versus people that have gone to Caribbean when they came back in terms of their USMLE exams. So I'm again speaking out of experience, people that I've seen, but it differs based on individuals again,
Thank you, sir.
their interest level and everything else.
Right.
All right.
PJ, thank you so
Well,
much.
thank-
And you want to say something? Sorry.
No, pretty much thank you. And thank you for opportunity for talking to everybody. It was a great conversation. And I do wish everyone best of luck in their future endeavors.
Thank you, DJ. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you everyone for sparing your time and joining us here. Do join our Telegram channel for valuable content in future as well. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank, thank you so much.
Thank
Okay,
you
it was a
so
great
much,
session.
Jayesh.
Jai Hind.
You gotta focus on your